Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're uncovering a financial secret that could put a significant amount of money right back in your pocket. Imagine this, over $20 billion. Yes, that's billion with a B, sitting right now in New York State, just waiting for its rightful owners to claim it. This isn't some far-fetched story or a scam. It's a very real pot of funds managed by the New York State comptroller, and there's a strong possibility some of it belongs to you or to someone you know. So, if you're a current or former New Yorker, or even if you've just done business there, stick around because we're going to break down exactly what this money is, why it's there, and most importantly, how you can find out if you're owed a piece of it. This colossal amount of cash comes from various sources. Think dormant bank accounts that haven't seen activity in years, uncashed checks from old employers or refunds, forgotten utility deposits, unreturned security deposits from old apartments, or even old insurance policies where beneficiaries were never found. When businesses can't return this money directly to the customer, they're eventually required by law to turn it over to the state comptroller's office. The idea is that the state acts as a custodian, holding on to the funds until the true owners can be located. But here's where it gets really interesting. This mountain of money has grown dramatically. Back in 2006, the total pot was just over $7 billion. Now it's more than $20 billion, far more than any other state in the entire country. Now, you might be wondering, if it's supposed to be returned, why is there so much? Well, New York's status as a global financial center plays a significant role, meaning there's a constant influx of these kinds of funds. The comptroller's office has actually become quite adept at collecting these funds from financial institutions. However, state law actually requires these institutions to try and find owners before turning the money over to the state. This means that by the time these funds reach the state, the original owner is often already difficult to locate, adding to the challenge of getting the money back to its rightful place. But here's a crucial point. The New York State government has essentially been borrowing and spending a significant portion of this money. The state comptroller's office manages this giant pot, but for every $3 the comptroller has returned to owners since taking office in 2007, roughly $5 have gone to the state government to prop up its annual budgets. In fact, nearly $11.8 billion has been transferred to the state's general fund since 2007, essentially as interest-free cash for lawmakers to borrow and spend as they see fit. Last fiscal year alone, lawmakers treated nearly $900 million in unclaimed funds as revenue without expectation of direct repayment. This means if all that money suddenly became due, it could create a massive hole in the state budget. To give you some perspective on New York's unique situation, consider Florida. Florida, which actually has a larger population than New York, reports holding only about $2 billion in unclaimed funds. In contrast, New York holds 10 times that amount. Even more striking, in fiscal year 2024, Florida returned a significant $428 million to its residents. That's roughly 20% of their total. In the same year, New York, despite its massive $20 billion pot, returned $504 million, which is only about 2.6% of its total. This disparity really highlights the different approaches and the sheer scale of funds held in New York. So, how do you find out if you're one of the millions owed money? It's surprisingly straightforward. The first step is to visit the New York State Comptroller's official website for unclaimed funds. You'll simply search your name. If you find your name listed along with an address you've been associated with, then congratulations, money is likely waiting for you. The next steps for simple claims typically involve a relatively brief online verification process, usually requiring you to confirm your past addresses and enter your social security number. This verification can often be completed in just a couple of minutes. I've personally experienced this myself. When I checked while reporting this story, 2 new claims in my name popped up, one tied to an address I lived at over a decade ago in Queens, and another to an old address in Albany. For more complex situations like those involving estates, the process can take a bit more time and documentation, but it's certainly worth the effort. And don't stop at New York. There's also a national database where you can check for unclaimed money in other states. Many people have found funds waiting for themselves, friends, or family members with just a few minutes of searching. An editor working on a story even found money for half a dozen people they know after a short search. It's definitely worth checking both the New York specific site and the national database. Now, there's been a lot of discussion around how to speed up the return of these funds. Until recently, New York law didn't explicitly allow the comptroller's office to just proactively mail out checks to people even if they knew who was owed what. However, a new law was signed just last year that now explicitly permits the comptroller to automatically issue checks. So, 2025 is a critical test run for this new system. For now, they can only send checks up to $250 and only for newly reported unclaimed money. But they've already made progress. About 70,000 people have received checks totaling around $5 million, and thankfully, no cases of fraud have been detected yet. While the check clearing rate is currently around 40%, which is lower than hoped, it's a promising start. Beginning in 2026, the comptroller will have the authority to automatically send out checks for any amount they deem fit, and these payments can come from any portion of the full $20 billion, even from very old accounts. However, sending out money for older accounts presents its own set of challenges. People might have moved multiple times, or the original owners might have passed away, leading to complex estate situations or claims that are already pending. The comptroller's office states that returning the entire $20 billion at once is far from easy. They cite a litany of practical obstacles. Think about unredeemed gift cards or money orders that lack recipient names, or decades-old accounts where social security numbers might not be available. There are also complex, high-dollar cases involving unclear estate beneficiaries or corporate mergers and acquisitions that make direct mailing extremely difficult. Another major hurdle is that New York law currently prevents the comptroller's office from accessing recent address information from state tax returns, a tool that many other states, like Illinois, successfully use to locate owners for automatic returns up to $5,000. Illinois has already returned over $2 billion since 2015 using such methods, verifying addresses with tax records and voter registration files, even for checks up to $5,000. This contrasts sharply with New York's current limitations. The debate over these funds has even become a political topic. A recent comptroller candidate, Drew Warshaw, launched a bid to unseat the current incumbent with a pledge to repay the entire pot of unclaimed funds as soon as humanly possible. He calls the situation a scandal, arguing there's not an ounce of urgency to get New Yorkers their money back, especially when so many are struggling with living costs. He suggested employing data engineers and sophisticated technology, including artificial intelligence, to identify owners with near-perfect confidence and send out checks of any amount, even without prior identity verification. He also believes recent tax returns could be used for addresses. However, the current comptroller's office counters that accessing tax data is prohibited by state tax privacy laws, and that sending out $20 billion without more robust checks and balances would be irresponsible, calling it a fanciful idea. Wershaw, however, argues that these are simply convenient excuses, suggesting they are incentivized not to figure this out because the state has already spent the money. He even pointed out that prominent New York politicians, like U.S. senators and the House Speaker, are listed as being owed funds but remain unpaid at their government office addresses. While Warshaw would not seek to blow an immediate $20 billion hole in the state budget, he would work with the governor and legislature to develop a responsible plan. Despite these hurdles and the ongoing debate, the comptroller's office does make efforts to alert New Yorkers through social media, press releases, and appearances at things like county fairs, plus targeted mailings. They have a team of 100 staff dedicated to outreach and assisting with claims, in addition to 70 staff who focus on recouping funds from financial institutions. Last year, they were returning $1.5 million in lost money each day, and this year, that figure has increased to $2 million daily. While it's unlikely the state will ever have to repay the full $20 billion at once, given the continuous cycle of new unclaimed funds coming in, the goal remains to return as much as possible. So what should you do? Take a few minutes today to check the New York State Comptroller's website and then the national database. You never know what forgotten treasure might be waiting for you or your loved ones. It's your money, and it deserves to be in your pocket, not sitting untouched in a state fund. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope this information helps you uncover some hidden cash. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more financial tips and insights. We'll see you in the next video.